Good morning, everyone. If you are watching the replay, then welcome to Anointed Devotions. I'm a wife and a mom and a Bible teacher, and I come on and do Anointed Devotions. Most mornings I try to make it on here. Hey, Cherry, good morning, sis. How are you today? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Hey, Patricia. Good morning. Can you guys guess what I'm going to be talking about today? Maybe, maybe not. Might be a surprise. But I was driving earlier and had a thought. So that's what I'm going to talk about is this particular thought I had today about this word yield. So good morning to you all. Thanks for joining me. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So here in Ohio, it is a very, very rainy, cold fall morning, and I thank God for it. But I'm not the biggest fan of the cold at all. So you see, I got on my little turtleneck situation and everything because I do not play with the cold. I do not like being cold at all. So I had to go out in the cold this morning, drop my boys off for school and everything, and I was just trying to have a grateful and Christian-like attitude in this coldness and in this change of weather, and woke up with little tickles and stuff in my throat and that kind of stuff, and I was like, oh no. This is the season for all of that, so kind of is what it is, it's getting cooler, it's turning towards the fall, so it just is what it is. How are you guys? Is it cold where you are? Good morning, Sandra. How are you doing this morning? Good to see you. I was just wondering if it's getting cooler in other parts, because in Ohio, it's starting to get chilly. Like the temperature is starting to drop. It's starting to feel more fall-like, It is loading. You mean like as far as weather, or are you talking about the scope? I'm not sure, Patricia, what you mean. But it's cold in Ohio. Bad connection, may have to catch the replay. Oh no. Okay. All right, Cherry. Well, I understand that. I don't know what's been going on with Periscope lately. It's been kind of glitchy for everyone. Like almost all scopes I go on, it's just like they're stopping and starting and stopping and starting. So I don't know what's going on. But that's funny that they're stopping and starting, and I want to talk about yield today. So yield, I did a word study on the word yield. And at the beginning of the scope there, I showed that I was looking at this manual of traffic signs. And so, you have your stop signs and you have your yield signs. And so you're supposed to stop at the stop signs. You're supposed to like slow down and like let another person pass if you're at a yield sign. But as many of us know, and hopefully not practice, but people slide through the stop signs, and sometimes they stop at the yield signs. And so it's kind of funny because it kind of reminds us of how we can be spiritually. God will put a big old stop sign up there and you should stop, but you just kind of glide through. Or there'll be a big yield sign like, let somebody else go first, do this and we'll stop and we won't continue on. You know what I mean? And it's just a habit because they changed the yield signs. They used to be all yellow. And then they changed the yield signs to red. So people just automatically in their heads think red means stop. So they stop at yield signs and they kind of slide through the stop signs. It's kind of funny. So I was looking at this Bible verse today, which has the word yield in it in the King James Version. And that's kind of what made me think about this devotion for this morning. And this I'll be reading from Romans chapter 6. Verse 13 is where I began to look at this word yield. But before I did that, I did like a little word study on it just to see like what yield is, like what it really means. And so yield means how much something makes. Like if you have a recipe and the yield is like how much of that thing are you going to have when you're done? What's the full amount? What's the profit, the return, the result of whatever you're doing? It also can mean to give way in an argument. Like if you arguing with your husband and you yield to him and whatever, you kind of take down, you kind of become the person who, for all intents purposes, just, stop the argument because you yield and you let the other person have their way. Or it can also mean harvest, or how much of something you get at the end of a planting season. As that also means yield. And then I looked up some opposites of the word yield, and I came up with to abandon, to withdraw, to leave, or to stop. And so those are things that are opposite of yielding. So we know that we're supposed to yield ourselves to God, yield ourselves as vessels, yield ourselves to his service. But a lot of times we either stop doing what God told us to do, or we keep going when God puts up a stop sign and God tells us not to do something. A lot of times I've noticed in my life, like God is trying to move and he's trying to use me. He's trying to do something. Good morning, Jess. How are you? God might be trying to do stuff in your life and you don't yield to him and you don't let him have his way. You know, you don't let him take control in a situation, and that's not yielding, right? That's the opposite. That's withdrawing from God's will, leaving God's will, stop doing God's will. That's the opposite of yielding. But when we yield to God and we say, and we agree with him and we say, yes, God, you're right about this and I'm wrong, then that's true yielding. So Romans chapter 6, verse 13 says, neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God as those who are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. So our very lives, our very person should be used as an instrument for God. He should be able to pick us up and to use us how he wants to use us. And we are simply the vessel. We're simply the thing that he can use. And then verse 14 says, for sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. And I thought about that. Your connection isn't working either. What is going on? I think maybe it's the rain. I don't know. Is it raining where you are? Because you're the second person that said they didn't have a good connection. So sin shall not have dominion over you, for you're not under the law, but under grace. And this is the thing. When people run stop signs and they don't yield to yield signs, then they consider themselves above the law. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have to do that, or I can get by with doing this, and God won't really notice if I da-da-da-da-da. But it's not there to, it's there for your protection. The signs are there to give you direction and to give you warning and to help you along your journey, not to make life harder, not because God wants to punish us, but because he wants us to yield to him. He's not going to force us to yield. There's not a policeman standing at every stop sign and every yield sign saying, I'm going to get you a ticket. You didn't yield. You didn't stop. You didn't whatever. That's not the way it works. So it's something that we have grace about because it's something that we can choose to do or not. You could choose to run that stop sign or not. You can choose to yield or not, because God is a gentleman. He's not going to force his will on us. He's not going to push his way, and force us to stop and force us to yield to him. No, he's going to say, I want you to willingly give of yourself to me. I want you to willingly want to serve me. It's like if you got a boyfriend, a girlfriend, it's like you want them to willingly spend time with you. You don't want to have to force them, make them call you, make them text you, make them, be the boyfriend or girlfriend you want them to be. No, you want them to willingly, of their own accord, spend time with you and to, serve you and to want to do things for you, right? Everybody wants that. Nobody wants to have to pull and drag somebody along. Good morning, Sandra. You're back. So yeah, it says, verse 15, and this is Romans chapter 6. It says, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. Just because you don't have to stop at every single stop sign, you don't have to yield at every little yield sign, doesn't mean that you should run the stop signs. It doesn't mean that you have the liberty to do it. You might get caught or you might not. It's a risk that you take if you don't yield. It's a risk that we take with God if we don't yield to him. And he doesn't force us to stop at the stop signs. He doesn't force us to yield to him, but he sure wants us to, because it's for our benefit, because it helps us out when we do what he has called us to do. So it says, know ye not, and this is verse 16 of Romans 6, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are, to whom you obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. So literally God gives us a choice. He said, you can yield to me, and that's fine. And you'll be serving me if you yield to me, right? Or you can yield to the devil. You can yield to the enemy. You can yield to your flesh. You can yield to those things. And I tell you what, the results of yielding to the enemy is never going to be good. It's never going to be a great thing to give yourself up and to say, I'm going to serve you, devil. And it's literally us saying that when we choose to reject God's love and we choose to reject his care by following, the laws that he's set and by disregarding, the direction he's given us, then we're saying, yeah, devil, I'll serve you instead. I mean, it's a very clear black and white thing in the Bible. Like, we can choose to follow God or not. And we can choose to stay with God or not. We can choose to yield ourselves to God or not. But whoever you choose to yield to, that's the one you become a servant to. So are you going to choose to serve God, or are you going to choose to serve the devil? Because there is no other, way. It's black or white. Hey, Rhonda, how are you doing today? It's good to see you. So I'm just talking about yield, and we started by talking about the definition of yield, to kind of submit to the other person in a conversation or in an argument, to yield or to say, you're right and I'm wrong or whatever. And yield can also mean like harvest, or how much of something you have, like in a recipe. How much does this yield? So think about this. If you are yielding to God, what kind of results are you going to get versus if you yield to the devil? You know what I mean? What kind of results do you expect if you say, well, God, I think I'm going to go ahead and serve you today. I'm going to make that choice, because God's a gentleman. He's not going to force us to serve him. But if you say, you know what, God, you're worth, everything. I'm going to serve you in my marriage. I'm going to serve you in my life. I'm going to serve you with my time. What is that going to yield versus serving the enemy? A temporary fix, a temporary high, a temporary, whatever. You spend some time with some guy and like it was temporary. It was just a temporary high, temporary moment in time that's not going to have any eternal and lasting benefit whatsoever. But it was just a temporary thing. And the Bible clearly says, to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are, period. So you can obey God, or you can obey sin that's going to lead to death. So it really is our choice today to yield or not to yield, to say and agree with God or not to agree with God. Thanks for the hearts. And it's something that we can have the choice to do, because many times if I compare the two and I go back to my life and I think about times that I have not yielded to God, times where I've said, you know what, I think my way is better, God. I think I want to do what I want to do. And I haven't yielded to what the word of God says about the situation. It's been a disaster. And then times that I have really sought God for something, and even against my better judgment, I've decided to agree with God about the situation. Boom. The yield is crazy. The harvest is great. And those things are a blessing in my life. So it really is a matter of making a choice and deciding, are you going to acknowledge the stop signs that God is putting in your life? And he's saying, don't do that. I'm warning you, please do not. Are we just going to run through those stop signs, or are we going to stop? And are we going to yield to God, give him the right of way in our lives and say, God, you go first. It's all about you. I'm going to, follow after you. And I'm not going to, push my way and push my will and push my agenda, but I'm going to allow you to take hold of my heart, and I'm going to surrender, because that's really what it is. If you ran a stop sign right now and the police came after you, you can keep going or you can stop. You're going to stop one way or another, and you're going to be judged for what you did and did not do, for what you say and do not say. And you don't want to get caught, in the wrong thing. And that's just what judgment looks like. When Christ comes, he's going to be like, did you yield or did you not yield? And so that's our anointed devotions for today. Thinking about the word yield, its definition, and what it looks like in our life in a practical way, according to Romans 6:13 through 18. And I love verse 18. It says, being then made free from sin, ye became the servants of righteousness. And nobody wants to talk about being a servant, But I'm telling you, if I'm going to be a servant to anybody, it's going to be to God, because people are so fickle. I would much rather serve God than serve man, and be a servant of righteousness than a servant of death. So make your choice today and choose to serve God. Choose to yield to him. You know, you hear that still small voice in the back of your head that tells you the right or wrong things to do. And if you pay attention, God will give you the guidance and direction. He'll say, turn left, turn right, you know, stop here, go there. So listen to that still small voice and obey it today. Good morning. Hey, you guys are joining and I'm about done. Thank you for inviting followers. I'm just talking about being yielded and yielding to God according to Romans 6:13 through 18 today. So I want you to read it. I want you to meditate on it. And I want you to ask yourself, am I truly yielding to God, or am I like not? Am I yielding to something else? Because everybody's yielding to something. They're a servant of something or someone. My middle son thing was going to be disappointed that he missed you. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Oh, well, tell him to catch the replay. Oh, that's so funny. Well, thank you. Oh, that's great, Rhonda. What's your name? Yahara. I'm not sure. I can't say that name. Hey, Portia. Good morning. How are you? It's good to see you guys. I missed yesterday. Oh, how cute. How cute is that? 7. You know what? I love kids around the age of like 6 to 10, especially boys. They are awesome. Good morning, hun. So, yeah, you guys, I am really about done. So I'm going to just wrap it up from here. So just be thinking about, you know, are you really yielded to God, or what are you yielded to if you're not yielded to God? Because it's something that we really have to. The Word of God is a measuring tool. Like if you saw at the beginning of my scope, I put up a manual of traffic signs, and the Bible is our manual. So follow that, because you can't go wrong with following the signs. He gives us signs all the time. So I pray that you follow the signs today. Love you guys. Be blessed. And I'll see you next time. Bye.